This is Gotham TV Podcast, episode 88, where we are looking at episode 9 of season 3, Gotham Mad City, The Executioner.
I'm David Mazuz, and you're listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
This is Drew Powell, and you're listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
This is Robin Lloyd Taylor, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
Welcome back, Gothamites, to this episode of Gotham TV Podcast, where we're looking at episode 9 in this, the third season of Gotham, The Executioner. We definitely get Judy.
Yes, we do.
We really do get Judy.
That's Judge Judy and Executioner. Yes.
Justice is served cold, hard, and with many ropes.
Yes. Absolutely. What an opening to this episode. Yeah.
It's better than our suggestible episode picture from last week.
Yeah. It was it didn't look great, and I put it up on Twitter, actually.
Or Facebook.
Oh, well. Hey.
Yes. Very suggestive. But we have Captain Barnes to keep us in line. Yes, we are back with this episode, and as always, you can listen to us on gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes or go to any other hero or villain podcast catcher. Just search Gotham TV Podcast, subscribe, leave a review if you want to, but please come and join us for our discussions on everything Gotham.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm one of your hosts, Derek. And this other host here is John.
Oh yes, I completely forgot all that. Yes, this is the other host of Gotham TV Podcast, me. Yes, John.
Yes. Just in case you didn't know who we are, we're 9 episodes into season 3 of Gotham over in Ireland. It's just finished off in the US as we're recording this episode. Apparently a great end to season 3, so really looking forward to that in 12 weeks' time, I think.
Yeah,
but
many weeks' time,
yes.
And it seems to be all good news coming from Facebook and Twitter, although I am trying not to get spoiled. Unfortunately, sadly, it's too late for Derek.
I may have gotten spoiled a little bit, but that's okay. I'll keep those opinions as we go through the episodes. I'll make sure that I empty them out of my head. It's quite easy at my age to do that. So
he will
grand.
go Captain Barnes on you.
But this episode is obviously a spoiler-filled review of Gotham Season 3, Episode 9, The Executioner. This episode was written by John Behringer, who's actually written 4 other episodes of Gotham so far. He did All Will Be Judged, which is coming up later on in the season, and he's done this Ball of Mud and Meanness, which we remember very well.
Very good.
And the Fearsome Dr. Crane,
yeah,
the
really
first of the 2-part Scarecrow episodes, I suppose, in season 1. So heavily involved. And another person heavily involved in the show so far is Ken Woodruff, who has written 10 episodes of the show so far. We've seen him. He's one of the main producers on the show and has written 10 episodes of the show. So they do work together again on All Will Be Judged later on in the season. So looking forward to what they give us there. But John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis of this episode?
Sure. Driven mad by the virus, Nathaniel Barnes renounces the rules and procedures of the GCPD to become judge, jury, and executioner, murdering any criminals that cross his path as he proclaims justice is served. Barnes increasingly sees Jim Gordon's suspicion towards him and attempts to frame Gordon for the murder of a low-level criminal, but is unable to convince the GCPD after Harvey and Lee falsify reports of Barnes's infected blood. After a showdown, Barnes is arrested and incarcerated in Arkham Asylum. Elsewhere, a distraught Edward Nigma suspects Butch Gilzean of murdering the love of his life, Isabella, as Oswald continues to cover his tracks of her murder, promising to bring retribution to Butch. Ivy Pepper finally reveals herself to Selena and Bruce, explaining her new adult form. However, after stealing an expensive necklace, she has been tracked and followed by a group of unknown men trying to reclaim the stolen necklace. As Bruce, Selena, and Ivy escape the 3 men, they try and return the necklace to the original owner, only to find him dead. In an attempt to figure out what to do next, the necklace is smashed, revealing a secret key contained within.
Oh, yes. Having Ivy Pepper back. We've got Maggie Giha's version of Ivy Pepper back on the show. We hadn't really seen too much of her since the transformation into the older version of Ivy Pepper. Very cool to see her back here, and cool to get the kind of the Scooby Gang of Bruce and Selena and Ivy together. It's quite cool. But we're going to go into how we cover our episodes.
Yes, we look at our top 5 points of each episode, case notes, if you will, and we go through these, run through them, and then we look at our Bullockism of the week. And of course, for anyone who is a fan of Harvey Bullock, please send in your Bullockism of the week in this season, or in fact in any season of Gotham. You can come and send in the Bullockism of the week to feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com, or you can leave it on our Facebook group. Just search facebook.com/groups/Gotham TV Podcast. Leave the Bullockism of the week, and you'll be entered into this lovely little prize draw in order to get one of these vinyl pops of the good old Harvey Bullock.
Little Harvey Bullock is cool,
Bullock,
isn't it?
even.
It's very dangerous name.
Slip of the tongue there, yes, indeed.
But let's get into our top 5 case notes for the week. John, number 1 really has to be Barnes. Justice is served, doesn't it?
Cold, absolutely. He is the slaw. He really is going completely Judge Dredd on this. He really is. Tonight he proclaims, "I am the law." Sex trafficking, drugs, and murder, as he gets 3 unfortunate fellows who should be behind bars and goes to string them up.
Yeah, really interesting here. Barnes is really taking it out on the people he hasn't been able to arrest over his time in the GCPD. It's really interesting that he's been keeping files on these guys, and that is a great opening scene for the episode. These 3 guys in nooses on chairs as Barnes kicks the chairs over and killing all 3 of them. He's really going all out and taking the law into his own hands in the city now.
Definitely. This is a really good sort of disintegration of Barnes. It really is good seeing him being self-righteous, to be honest. I do think as well with his whole sort of confrontation with Jim as well in this episode. There were moments where I was just there going, Jim, you've done all this as well. And in fact, Barnes does call it out with regards to Azrael, to the previous mayor of Gotham, Gallivan. But Jim really maybe can't preach too much to him. And I'm glad they kept that preaching down to a minimum, although he did have a bit of it. But you are kind of going, you've kind of done the same thing. You've made your bed in fairly messy places at some points through these first 3 seasons of Gotham.
Yeah.
And Barnes, in effect, is doing that, albeit through infection rather than his own will. So, I mean, I kind of like Barnes. I kind of like the fact that, as well, he was kind of onto Jim as well, and that he set him up with this framing of Jim as a murderer of a low-level kind of criminal.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that, and I think, it is a bit of a shame that he's not flown under the radar for a bit longer. I would love to have seen Captain Barnes just get progressively more psychotic. But I suppose it would have been difficult to hide with all those broken chairs around the GCPD.
Absolutely.
And dead criminals within the cells.
I don't know whether there would be that many criminals left in Gotham. He takes out, 5 guys in just 2 episodes where he's been the executioner. He's killed 5 people.
Don't need Batman
almost
now.
a 6th. Absolutely. We're done. Gotham's
All
clean.
done.
But I suppose that's kind of the deal. He's effectively thinks he's like Batman, bringing justice to the streets of Gotham, but killing people, which is something that Batman doesn't do. So it is quite interesting. I love, as you say, that moment between Jim and Barnes where they're kind of going back and forth a little bit. Jim talking to Barnes about the fact that he's his inspiration. He's the one that's telling him that you don't win the war, you win each battle at a time. Really is the conversation they had before. So seeing his inspiration for his return to the GCPD, now turning to the dark side, is difficult for Jim as well. I do love how the scene was shot in the car, though. I love the kind of that streets of San Francisco, that real 70s look. It's
Definitely.
something that I think this is what they were aiming for in the first season of the show. There was going to be a lot more Gotham Central storylines set around the police department. So an episode like this, which is set around the cops investigating other cops, was pretty much what they were aiming for at the beginning, and it's meandered along to get to a point here where they have a full episode that really feels like a cop show set in Gotham.
Yeah, and involving the whole of the GCPD, with Lee Tompkins and with Harvey Bullock effectively, lying to save their friend Jim because of his suspicions. So, yeah, really, really good. I was interested that Barnes knew so much that Dr. Smith had said something, final few words, and all this kind of thing. So he really had been keeping an eye on this case. So I kind of liked that. I liked how, whilst Jim was suspicious of Barnes, that Barnes equally was suspicious back of Jim sort of poking his nose in and so on. So it was really good.
Absolutely.
Really, really good to see this kind of story centered around the GCPD, involving all of the GCPD. Yeah, really was. Definitely.
It's cool, and I do like the touch of Barnes having his shotgun with him at all times, giving it to Jim, and killing somebody else in front of Jim as well. I love their interplay between each other, and the final showdown as well.
Yeah, cool. I was wondering, did Barnes go all veiny on him though? I didn't really see that. I didn't see the veins popping like he did in the Lose with Smith, because I was wondering when they were doing the whole punch up. I was kind of wondering, is Jim going to find himself being hurtled through the brick wall and down onto the street? Yeah, but I like the whole vibe, as you said. That whole Streets of San Francisco vibe was like excellent. Yeah. Proper. And that's another good thing about the timeless quality, I think, of Gotham, what they do. It can have that feel. It can also feel quite modern in some of the laboratories, certainly with Indian Hill and what was it, the warehouse from season 1, season 2. So yeah, really, really good.
Yeah. I'm wondering whether to answer the question about the veins. I wonder if that's because Barnes has now accepted this as part of him. He's accepted the blood and is now saying, he doesn't say that he's infected. He doesn't want to tell Jim who he is and and that he's become this heightened version of himself because he thinks Jim will just say it's an infection. It feels like he's gone with it now. He's accepted what's happening to himself. So I'm wondering if that's why it's not manifesting the way it was in the past, because he was fighting against it in the past.
Yeah, and it could be. And of course, now he is also then just going kind of rocking slowly back and forth in Arkham Asylum, talking about the voices and justice and guilty. Yeah, poor Captain Barnes.
But I think we should go on to our second point. One of our favourite characters returned, I did mention earlier on. Case note 2 is Ivy, and I love her quote. I meet men from Gotham and they give me things. If you dress like this, they just give you things, to Selina. Really cool to see some proper amount of Maggie Gyllenhaal's version of Ivy Pepper in the show.
Yeah, this was the first kind of episode where really you felt as though you were getting to know this new incarnation. She'd popped up briefly, strutting around Siren's Bar.
That's right.
And obviously getting more men to give her more things and then knocking them off.
Yep.
Obviously making the potions from the plants. Really good little visual with the whole juddery camera as she gets the owner of this necklace that she's about to steal to have a good old sniff of the potion. So yeah, I mean, like, she's really using her talents here, and it is definitely we had the mushroom thing with younger Ivy Pepper, but now we're seeing her probably more full on Poison Ivy in terms of what she's doing now with the plants. That was really, really good. I love the naivety though that's still there to some extent. I mean, even just I meet men from Gotham and they give me things. It's kind of slightly it's still got the younger kid in there, and definitely when coupled to her and Bruce having the trade-off about how much he will give her for this necklace so that he can then return it to its owner. I loved that, it was kind of like Dr. Evil from the movies, where it's like, I will give you $1,000. Haha, Ivy thinks this is like fantastic.
So much money to a girl who lives on the street, of course.
And then, of course, it goes up to about $5,000. So, yeah, pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty
not
good
bad.
day's work, Ivy.
I do like that when the necklace gets smashed later on, and she calls out, "That's worth $5,000." You can see it in Bruce kind of going, "Don't tell her how much it's really worth. I can get $5,000 today, and that'll sort out the problem, but it's worth a lot more than that." Really cool. Love the interplay between these characters, having, as I said, the threesome of Selena and Bruce and Ivy Pepper working together. There's just something about the interplay between the characters. They've always worked really well on screen
Definitely.
together. But now having a new actress in the role, you're kind of hoping that it would come across really well. I love that there's the whole thing of her instantly realizing there's a relationship between Bruce and Selena. I thought that was really cool. She instantly realizes that you two are a couple now, aren't you? And both Selena and Bruce, of course, give different answers to that. It's Bruce says yes, Selena says no. Bruce goes, are we not a couple?
It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress.
Poor little Bruce.
Young love, it's still ironing out those patches, trying to really get to grips with their emotions.
Yeah, and Selena's not giving Bruce anything here to play with at all, unfortunately. Another one of the scenes I loved here is the reason why Selena knows that this grown adult who's calling herself Ivy Pepper is her Ivy Pepper is because she eats all of her food. I think this is one of the early lines that we saw from when they were in Barbara's apartment. I think when Selena takes her up to Barbara's apartment, I think that was one of the early lines was, "Have you got anything to eat around here? I'm starving." From Ivy Pepper. I think that's where it's from. So she uses that again with Selena to convince her that she is the right person.
Yeah, the little street urchin is always starving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what did you think about that moment between Bruce and Ivy, where he says to her, "You do look nice," and it's a bit of a look from Selena. Is that jealous?
I know. I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think there's trouble ahead. I suspect there won't be trouble ahead, but maybe there will be. This is a mad city, after all.
It certainly is. John, anything else about Ivy Pepper?
No, I think we can go on to the Isabella Crisp, burnt to a nice prawn cocktail flavoured crisp. Yeah.
I was really surprised at this.
There goes our theory that she will have a long and illustrious storyline with Enigma. No, she is dead.
Yeah.
She is toasted. And
poor Chelsea Spack, she just can't get a long-running role in the show. I know that her original character did last for over a season and a half in the show and then got murdered by Ed, but I was kind of expecting more with the Isabella character. I was kind of expecting that we'd learn more about why she knew so much about Ed and why she wasn't so perturbed at Ed being a person that murdered his ex-girlfriend, I thought there would be a connection with Professor Strange. I thought there might be a connection with Indian Hill. She might be another doppelganger or Clayface, but well, we'll never know right now unless a third version of Chelsea Spack comes back.
Unless she is brought back to life, possibly again by Professor Strange, who has been absent without leave for a while now, along with Fish Mooney, actually.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get these two back in. I love these two characters. I really like Isabella as well, and I think I love the effect it has on Enigma, because I think it really it plays to that schizophrenic dual personality of Enigma and the Riddler, and I really enjoyed that storyline. And whilst I know he's become full evil, full Riddler, I enjoyed that momentary kind of reversing back to Ed having doubts about himself. And I was hoping that it would play a bit more to that kind of great kind of little effect and that kind of nice little touchstone that they have for that, where he's speaking to himself in the mirror. You get the shaky Ed, and as he switches between these two different characters, a really good trait of his, and I think it should be there to some degree still, even though he is full Riddler here. And I like that was the kind of effect that Isabella, by looking like Kristen Kringle, had really for Enigma.
And I like in the episode that we do see kind of why Ed was so involved in the GCPD. Remember, he came from the GCPD in season 1, season 2. So he does have his own investigation skills. So he's able to piece together the last moments of Christian Kringle's life. Slightly wrong outcome to his investigation, but we'll get to that in a second. There's one other element that I really liked about this. It just struck me from our interview with Robin Lord Taylor, where he'd mentioned about about his character of Oswald Cobblepot and about the fact that he doesn't know boundaries. It really has a moment in this episode which really stands out like that, where he gives Ed that hug, which is just that little moment too far. Ed's not ready for that kind of relationship with Oswald. No,
it's a little too much, just a little too much. But I do love the kind of, it's the terror on Penguin's face as Ed is kind of talking out his theory. The break line was cut, she was dead. Kind of on arrival at the scene, you have the blind beggar who's giving him information as well, and he comes to the theory correctly as to what's happened, but the person responsible not so correct, and of course it is Butch Gilzean, and I suppose that brings us on to our fourth case note, which is Butch is to blame in the eyes of Ed. And I do think that I really enjoyed Oswald's reaction to this. And again, it comes back to the interview with Robin Lord Taylor that he just doesn't understand social behavior. It is all about him, and he is quite happy to throw anyone or anything under the bus to preserve himself, just as himself, or his pursuit of whatever he's after. And in this case, it's Ed. So, of course, he knows that it is going to be a really awkward conversation when Ed finds out, and I'm sure he will. But I suspect there won't be very many hugs after that.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Not really.
But I kind of get the feeling that Oswald would throw Butch under the bus to preserve that relationship with Ed. I have a feeling that if Oswald gets to him first and takes out poor Butch before Ed finds out the truth, is probably what Oswald's thinking and hoping will happen, so that they can preserve that.
I'm sure he will get Gabe on the case.
You never know.
In fact, actually, that was one of the questions that we didn't get around to asking when we were at Heroes and Villains Fan Fest. We did have a question for Drew Powell, who plays Butch Gilzean. We wanted to know whether him and Gabe do actually sort of hook up in terms of within the season, and just because of time constraints, we weren't able to get to that question. But I just wonder if the Penguin is going to send Gabe out, to track down Tabitha and hence Butch. But it will be really good that all of this is going to mushroom cloud its way into the season somehow, because at the moment, if you think about what Ed Nigma and Oswald Cobblepot have built, they've gone from Arkham Asylum to under threat from Galavan, to being, king and queen of Gotham in terms of the mayor and his right-hand man. Ed is equally, it would seem, I did think he was going to be a bit duplicitous anyway, against Oswald, even though he saves Oswald from Butch. I just wondered whether his plan to Butch back in the Sirens was going to be some kind of, it really does reveal his cards, but that he's still just biding his time because he's a strategist, and he will really make it pay and work out for him by letting it run that much longer. So I did think that was kind of going to happen, but I think now it's going to be over the girl Isabella, or the lady Isabella.
Yeah, absolutely. Which kind of brings us on to our final point. It kind of tied into our first point, actually, to kind of wrap up the episode. The hero here is Bullock. Bullock is
fantastic.
Bullock is
really
our winner
good Yeah.
He always has been. We do love Harvey Bullock over Gotham TV Podcast, always have. So I do love that he's the one that has to convince Lee to step up and falsify records on Barnes. This is the only way he's going to be able to convince the rest of the GCPD about Barnes being the enemy now of the GCPD. Their captain has turned against the GCPD. So great to see Bullock have a moment of leading the gang again and bringing them to capture Barnes.
It's really good because I think up until maybe a couple of episodes ago, Harvey Bullock really was just chucking out the Bullockism of the week, and however much we do like that, I think in season 1 we also saw him certainly in Spirit of the Goat, one of my favourite episodes, but even just his interaction, in the diner, he felt Harvey Bullock. He had his issues, he had his drink. That seemed to have gotten sidelined a bit, and in fact we still do kind of have a much more upstanding Harvey Bullock at this stage.
Absolutely.
I think in the GCPD.
Jim's rubbed off on him.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was really nice to see Harvey Bullock get a good hero moment in Gotham. I think it really works to have that, and again I think it's playing to just the strengths of the show in using all of these great actors and actresses to step up at those moments. And I thought it was really good. Yeah. Again, it is going to pose several questions for Lee. She's beginning to immerse herself ever deeper into Jim's life again.
Absolutely.
So I think this is going to be the case of love triangles all round, because we've got Mario.
Always.
Mario's going to swing in with Luigi. Get rid of him, maybe. Or we're going to see the Falcones really coming back on the scene again.
Yeah.
Which I really hope so. John Doman, love him as Carmine, and it'll be good to see Mario get some good pieces where he is disintegrating into his father's profession.
Possibly, yeah.
I'm saying disintegrating quite a lot actually in this episode, so there's a lot of potential disintegration going on.
There is
in this season of Gotham.
There is definitely, and Jim is playing a very dangerous game, and Lee's playing a very dangerous game going back to work in
Jim
the
is
GCPD
a nightmare,
with
actually.
Jim. It's really bad, isn't it? Like
He's an absolute nightmare.
Why is it a nightmare, John?
I think he is a nightmare because he is just. He's constantly at it. He's just constantly going after the things he can't have.
There is that moment in the episode here where he's trying to say thank you to Lee, and there's a bit of silence between the two of them, and then eventually he just says thank you and walks away.
Nobody gives her a touch as well.
There's definitely that moment that it's that their relationship isn't over.
Jim Bob.
I know. Before we go into the Bullockisms of the week, because there is quite a few of them, any particular notes for the episode, John? Anything that stood out to you from the episode that we haven't talked about? And there's obviously the key, which is inside the necklace. We don't know what the key opens, but it seems like it will take our little Scooby gang on a little case.
I mean, I wonder this group of people who are chasing down Bruce, Selena, and Ivy, and of course put one of the guy's antiques straight through his eye. I wonder if they're the Court of Owls, actually. I wonder if it is owly related.
Maybe.
But yeah, what does the key mean? What will it open? Is it something brand new even? Yeah. Is it, it could be Court of Owls, but just something we're not aware of? Because so far, Court of Owls has been about Indian Hill and all that, but they have talked about controlling all aspects of Gotham. So
absolutely.
What's this key about? Or is this a completely new kind of entity arriving on Gotham?
I think this is court related. I think
no,
this
I
is
do.
Related. The fact that the Bristol ganger is still in their custody since he tried to leave the city a couple of episodes ago. I have a feeling we're going to have that whole relationship back in, and you have to bring back in Bruce and Selena. And now Ivy, you have to bring them back into that storyline. So hopefully we're going to see them back.
Or maybe it's a really expensive Mercedes-Benz car key.
Maybe, but I don't think so.
One of those uber rich things that people will buy if they're uber rich.
But putting it inside an necklace would make it very difficult to open your car every day. If you have to smash what Ivy thinks is $5,000.
But did it smash, or did it just come apart?
It felt like it smashed on the floor, and had this inside it, sealed. Yeah.
Because it looked like a gemstone, in which case, not entirely sure it should have smashed being a gemstone.
Right.
An emerald, because it was green.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Any other notes for the episode, Jen?
No. I think just to the Bullockism of the week. Well, we've got a couple.
We have two.
Yes.
Two this
I
week.
think the first one is definitely, if Barnes so much as jaywalked, he would write himself a ticket.
I do love that. Do love that moment of disbelief from Harvey that his boss could be anything other than the stand-up member of the GCPD when he arrived. Also love the moment where he's trying to convince Lee to come on board with him and falsify these the blood tests for Captain Barnes by saying that I can't lead the trigger-happy kill bots that are the GCPD. Do like them being referred to as that. We have a few other ones that were given to us by our listeners. Both of our listeners, for our feedback, have actually given us the same Bullockism of the week.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, feedback. Yeah. Of course, you can leave feedback at gothamtvpodcast.com. You can leave feedback on any of the comments in our Facebook group. Just head on over to facebook.com/groups/ Gotham TV Podcast, or of course even on Twitter. If the Bullockism of a week or any comment is less than the number of characters, which I can't remember how many there are now on Twitter.
140, isn't it?
It is 140, yeah. That's it. You can head over to Gotham TV Podcast.
Absolutely.
At Gotham TV Podcast.
Exactly. And finally, if you want to send us some voicemail, now that the show's finished in the US, if you're catching up on our podcast as you go, just leave us a voicemail over on our website at gothamtvpodcast.com. You'll see a little send voicemail button over on the side. Press that and you can leave up to 90 seconds of your thoughts for each of our episodes. And we'd love to get some voicemail in.
Absolutely. Certainly if you're rewatching, it'd be great to, did you spot anything earlier on in the episodes that, later on you kind of go, oh, I see the significance of that. That'd be really cool, actually. But
we'd love if you didn't spoil later episodes for us, though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if you have a spoiler on any of your comments from episode 10 onwards, just say spoilers. There be spoilers. But our first piece of feedback comes from Daniel Butcher. Barnes. Well, I'm still watching, but just like Agent Grant Ward from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's pretty hard for Barnes to come back to the Angels. That was a pretty big turn, says Daniel. He definitely feels like the misguided, violent vigilante that would be a good counter to Batman as a road not travelled. Arrows. I guess that was the big clue for the master detective, one who may not be sure he's in a relationship. I kid, it's actually very cute. And wow, Ivy is a bit of an airhead, and I kind of like it. She really comes off as someone who is not interested in what most people are into. I can believe she cares more about plants than people in the end. Is it me, or did Selena look a little hurt when Bruce said Ivy looked good? And haha, Harvey was only gone like an hour. Oh, Harvey, killbots. Classic.
Yes, two of our Bullockisms of the week come from Daniel there. Another great moment in the episode, which is Harvey saying, "I was only gone like an hour," when he finds out that Barnes has killed someone, and Jim is being framed for it and everything. Really, really, really good. But yeah, I think you're right. This idea of Captain Barnes being able to be I suppose forgiven for all of these murders he's committed and go back to his old life, that really can't happen. I know Jim was trying to say to him, but this means you're innocent here. If you've had this blood inside you, it means you're innocent, and we can prove that you're innocent. Well, it's probably not going to happen. He's killed way too many people for this, hasn't he? He's really let that blood come in and take him over, kind of like
It's the voices, Derek. It's
Yeah.
the voices. But yeah, and I love the fact that I completely agree that Ivy is this kind of an airhead. I think it's kind of down maybe to the younger side of her that's still trapped in an older person's body or something like that. But also, the idea that she loves her plants.
Absolutely.
I wonder if then that means she just eats meat.
just eats meat?
Yeah.
Or doesn't eat meat at all?
Not vegetables.
Well, maybe she's a meatitarian. Yes.
A meatitarian, exactly.
You never know.
But thank you, Asian Daniel, for that. That's really nice feedback, and thank you for the Bullockisms as well.
Absolutely. Our other piece of feedback comes in from Claire Payne, who we got to meet over at Heroes and Villains Fan Fest over in London. Yeah, really nice to meet you, Claire. Claire says, this was an episode of real mixed character developments. Jim and Captain Barnes in particular really stood out in this episode. It was good to see Jim actually investigating Barnes and not just relying on his natural detective instincts. I really like the doubt of Leslie and Harvey as they both think, why would Barnes kill? He is a man of the law with a 20-year clean record. With Jim's investigation into Barnes leads Jim into a dangerous encounter with him. I really liked how Barnes spins the situation and makes it look like Jim has completely lost it, and Harvey seeing all the cops of the precinct suiting up, and thankfully Harvey doesn't believe any of it. My Bullockism of the week is I was gone for like an hour. Yeah, there you go, Claire. Definitely a great one. I think we've talked quite heavily about the Jim and Barnes scenes in these episodes. It's something that I've always loved since the start of Gotham is the GCPD side of the show. So it was great seeing a bit more of that in the episode, definitely. Claire continues with the Nigmobble ship has capsized. It's not. I'm not surprised that Isabella didn't survive her car accident. With Ed being heartbroken, I can't but think that they plan this character just to cause an enormous rift between Oswald and Ed, as I can't see Nigma forgiving Oswald. One part of the story arc I like is that Oswald is a true narcissist and wants to control how Ed mourns. I love how Ed rages when Oswald gets Isabella's name wrong. These guys are not destined to be together.
No.
Just this simple discussion between the two of them, simple conversation between the two of them, drives both of them into a rage. The idea that when Ed is mourning, he's playing the music way too loud, so Oswald can't concentrate, even though he's the one that murdered her.
It's even the fact that Ed is put into the picture, but as a small little figure in the background to this huge narcissistic, as you say, Claire, this narcissistic Oswald front center and taking up most of the picture frame.
Yeah, hilarious.
Yeah.
And Claire continues with, when Edward arrives at the GCPD to identify Isabella's body, it would have been interesting to see if Leslie would have noticed the resemblance to Miss Kringle, especially as Isabella died with red hair. It would have been pretty obvious if Leslie had been the one examining the body. She absolutely would have recognised it was Kris Kringle, wouldn't she?
You would hope, because she gave Ed a good old right hook only a few episodes ago.
Absolutely, yeah, she definitely recognised it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, that actually, that maybe just a little bit of dialogue picked up of Lee picking up on it would have been kind of a nice little tribute to another Christine Kringle, Isabella doppelganger dying.
I have a feeling they probably just didn't want anything more of the storyline, because if you bring in the fact that Lee knows, then you've got to expand this into a whole thing where they go and investigate it. Maybe they just wanted to just a little writing technique to make sure that maybe it wasn't the medical examiner that looked at this body. Perhaps it was just an all-car accident, is the way it was seen by the GCPD, so maybe that's the way they're getting around it. Claire continues with Ivy, Selena and Bruce's scenes worked so well. I love how we get to see Ivy using her plant potions to get what she wants. Ivy getting into trouble, then revealing herself to Selena was a great way of bringing these two back together. Still a lovely, naive way with Ivy, especially when she's negotiating with Bruce how much the necklace is worth. She really has no idea. What was really interesting is when Selena breaks the necklace in frustration and the key is revealed. Yeah, looking forward to seeing what that key's for.
Yeah, what does it... I wonder what it's going to open.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Be interesting to see. I'm sure we'll get it in a couple episodes' time.
Who's got the lock?
We don't know yet. It'll be interesting to find out. And finally, Claire says, John and Derek, it was an absolute delight to meet you both. Please forgive me for being sentimental, but I had never met such welcoming people. One of my highlights was knowing that you'd be exclusively interviewing David, Drew and Robin. Enjoyed every moment of Heroes and Villains Fan Fest. The photos ops were fun and fast. Getting autographs from the 6 members of the Gotham cast was certainly a dream come true. Generosity with time was amazing and you never felt rushed. Gotham panel on Saturday was funny and informative, and the crowd they attracted was overwhelming.
Absolutely.
Such a well-organised, safe event with the volunteers being so helpful and happy. Can't wait for next year. Claire, that's put it better than I could have put it about Heroes and Villains Fan Fest. It really was an excellent event. Really enjoyed
Absolutely. And it was great to meet you as well, and everyone else at Heroes and Villains Fan Fest. I mean, yeah, it was such a good event. I mean, it is a fan fest. It's not a Comic-Con in that sense. The panels were excellent. I loved the panel setup, which was open. It meant even if you didn't get a seat, because of the Olympia being built the way it is, there's kind of like a first tier balcony all around the main exhibition space. So it means that on two sides of the panel, you could actually stand in the balcony and watch it, as well as the fact that the sides were open as well. And I thought that was really good. I think it just allowed for a bigger crowd to listen to these panels and to interact with them. I know, like Drew Powell was absolutely blown away when he walked out onto the stage. I mean, he was videoing it because he could see that, okay, it wasn't just that all the seats were packed for the panel, but that there were so many people along the sides, on the ground floor, and up in this balcony, watching, listening, participating, which is always the best thing about these events, is the participation.
Absolutely.
Really, really well organized event. The photos were great, the autographs were great, the obviously the selfies that you could take as well. I just think it was good. I mean, I think you just have to be aware it's a fan fest, and sometimes if you, like, in effect what we did, you do a lot of stuff in one day. The next day it becomes a bit more slow paced, but obviously we did have the interviews to do on day one and day two as well, so there was still a lot for us to do. But one of the best things is just meeting everyone and the community there.
A whole group of Gotham fans that travel from many countries of the world, actually. A lot of people from America, a lot of people from Europe as well, over for the show. It's really good. Thank you so much for your feedback, Claire. Thank you so much, Daniel, for your feedback.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Absolutely. No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Claire. Pleasure to meet you. Yeah, definitely.
And if you want to send in your feedback, you can email us to feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com, as John mentioned. If you want to listen to those interviews or any of our other episodes, just go over and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. You can go directly over through gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes, or you can search for us on any good or evil podcast catcher. Just search for Gotham TV Podcast and you'll pick us up.
Definitely. And of course, we will be back for episode 10 of Gotham Mad City, called Time Bomb. Tick, tick, boom.
Maybe that's what the key opens. Time bomb.
Or will it be the Mad Hatter? Ooh, time, his clock, hypnosis, maybe. But no, it's probably the key.
You never know.
Sets off a detonator and ends up with the crushing and blowing up of Gotham. But that will be out, obviously, then next Wednesday, the 14th of June.
Thank you so much for joining us again. We will be back with you on the 14th of June.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. It's, as always, a pleasure, and we will speak with you next time. Bye.
Guilty.
Justice is served.
I'm David Mazouz, and you're listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
This is Drew Powell, and you're listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
This is Robin Lloyd Taylor, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.